Hello and welcome back to the Johnny Gets Cash YouTube channel. You're joining me today out in my long wheelbase V8 Jaguar XJ8, and what a car it is. Now if you watched the last episode, you'll be aware that I hadn't driven this car so far because it had an engine light on, but I'm pleased to report that right now I'm driving this thing with absolutely no warning lights on, and it's not too bad. Sadly, I think we might actually have a gearbox issue, but before we get into that, let's rewind and I'll show you how we got to the bottom of the engine light on this old Jag. Okay, so today I'm back on the Jaguar XJ. I want to get this thing in the workshop, I want to get plugged in and see what is going on with this lumpy idle. So let's head inside and check it out. Okay, so having driven the Jag inside the workshop, already I'm seeing slightly different issues than what we had the other day. You'll notice I've got an ABS light today. It's saying engine coolant low. I've checked the coolant, it's not low at all. So that must be a dodgy sensor or potentially an electrical gremlin on this old Jag, because as you saw in my last video, didn't have those warning lights. The car's done no work since and now I've got them. So it could be a good thing, it could be something I can dig into. So let's crack on with that. Okay, first things first, let's start with the logical stuff. I'm going to plug in an OBD scanner and see what the car thinks is wrong with it. Okay, so let's go through the issues that the scanner has found. Let's start with the two flags on engine control module. Okay, so they're both pending codes. We've got heated oxygen sensor control module, bank 2. System check not completed since last memory clear. Okay. Next up, transmission control module, 2 flags again, 2 pending again. So mode switch malfunction and stall speed. And anti-lock braking flag has got 2 on it. Again, 2 pending. So we've got a front left wheel speed sensor input circuit failure. Well, that should be an easy one to sort. And we have a pump motor circuit failure. So not entirely obvious what is wrong with the Jag, but that doesn't stress me out too much because having dealt with multiple Land Rovers and Range Rovers, which if you watch the channel regularly, you'll be aware of the things I've done with those. Lots of phantom codes on a scan when you first plug something in is really nothing unusual. Something interesting, one of you guys in the comments mentioned on the last video that these old Jags can suffer from bad earths. Again, very similar to a Range Rover. And that is kind of conducive of what I'm seeing here. Lots of little gremlin issues. So I think I'm going to look up the earth points on this car. I'm going to go around and check all the earths are good, potentially clear the codes, and then start it, run it for a bit and rescan it and see what we've got. So let's have a look at those earth points before we do anything too in-depth based on this scan. Okay, so I'm going around and checking all the earth points on the Jag. I've got a pretty handy guide from one of the forums, as per a suggestion in the comments. Now, that same comment, and I'm so sorry I've forgotten your username, but the person in the comments who suggested looking at the earth points behind the headlights, very, very well done, good point. I've just had a look at the earth points behind the near side headlight here, and although it's quite hard to show it on camera, they do look rather grotty. So whereas I'm not saying that is absolutely the issue, it's definitely a good start. If I show you the other side, it's easier to see the earth post here in much, much better condition. So near side behind the headlights looking pretty grotty. I'm going to take those apart now, give them a good clean up, put it back together, check if the lights have gone out. It'd be a bit of a miracle if they have, but if they have, great. If not, I'll continue going through the other earth points on the car. Another little gremlin issue I've discovered while doing this work is that the boot solenoid isn't working. So when you've got the little button here, you press, it should release the solenoid and the boot should release. At the moment, I'm having to do it with a key. So I'm checking the loom and everything going into there. Just another little electrical issue. So maybe it's related, maybe it's not. I'll keep you up to speed as I do these bits and pieces. And hopefully today we can figure out what is going on with the old Jag. Okay, so I've tidied up those rusty earth points there. They weren't actually that bad when I got them apart, so I'm not sure how much hope I'm holding out for any kind of a resolve. Probably none, to be fair, but let's try it anyway. Okay, so definitely not fixed it, but you can at least now see the various warning lights I'm getting. So we've got engine coolant low, it's not low, I think that's a sensor. Driver's door open, of course it is. Traction not available, ASC not available. Bonnet open, yeah, fine. Boot open, also fine. Okay, so traction and ASC. Those are funny errors, but they do tie into the results that the scanner was getting. So nowhere near a fix, but potentially gathering clues as I go. Still, again, good shout on those earthing points in the comments. As always, I do read all your comments. If you look at the videos I post, I do try my best to respond to every single one as well. So again, I'm very, very grateful for you guys taking the time to comment on the car itself or give tips, anything like that. It's always very, very gratefully received. Okay, so having seen the ASC unavailable and traction control lights on the dash, it made me think, when I plugged the reader in earlier, it did say something about this near side front wheel having a speed sensor out. Now, if that's a genuine fault, that could be what's affecting the traction control, ASC, all that sort of stuff. So I figured it's worth getting involved in here, having a look, see if it is a genuine fault, and if so, to sort it. Something else I want to mention, though, while I've got this the car lifted, I know a lot of people watch my videos, they do registration checks on the cars I buy, check the MOT histories, etc. And if you check this one, you'll see there is some mention of underside corrosion. Now, it's a 25-year-old Jag. If it didn't have any underside corrosion on previous MOTs, I'd be a little bit concerned. This one looks okay, it's totally passable, there's nothing completely horrible going on under there, but part of the plans I have for this vehicle is to get it on the ramp, get it lifted, have a proper look round underneath, make sure there is nothing that needs welding or really working on, making sure it's as good as possible, chemically treat everything and chip everything to make it as nice and future-proof as possible. Again, it's a 25-year-old Jag, it's gonna need that sort of stuff. But just thought I'd mention it because I know a lot of people watching these videos do the checks, and if you've seen the MOT histories with corrosion advisories, you might be wondering, am I gonna tackle it? Yes, I am. Anyway, back to this. Nothing looks completely untoward under here. No wires are broken or unplugged, which is what I'd kind of hope to see because that's a nice easy fix. So the connector looks a little bit grotty, so I've unplugged it. I'm gonna give everything a good clean up and put it back together. Worst case, I'll have to get a new sensor and hope that sorts the issue. But for now, I'm just taking things off, cleaning them up, making sure they're all as good as they can be, and we'll go from there. But I know that doesn't solve the rest of the issues on this car, and it certainly doesn't solve that engine issue, but it's a case of dealing with what you can when you can. And for now, having seen those lights on the dash, I think this is a good way to go. So that's what I'm on at the moment. Okay, so my luck might be in. I've cleaned up the sensor on this front hub. It was a bit grotty, so I say cleaned it up because nothing was broken or unplugged. And I've flashed off the codes, cleared it on another computer now. And although that's given me some silly warnings about driver's seat module and whatnot, all the codes that were here have gone. I'm still getting the engine coolant low warning. It's something I have to look into, but it's cleared the engine light as part of that mass clear. I know we've still got an issue there, but I'm not getting ASC unavailable stuff anymore. So I think at the moment I'll leave that alone. I think the real test will be when I put the wheel back on and I can drive this thing, get the wheels rotating, see if it still stays off. If not, then we might have an issue deeper into the car. But there seems to be such a lot of small issues at play here. I do need to keep pecking away at what I can. So I'm going to chuck the wheel back on this, just move it backwards and forwards a few times, see if it stays off. If it does, I'll move on to something else. Okay, time for a little update, because I know this video has been a little bit choppy and changey and I've been doing all sorts of stuff. The wheel speed sensor on this front near side wheel, that has been, the plug itself is pretty grotty. I've cleaned that out and I've cleared the codes. I no longer seem to have an ASC or a gearbox fault type light on the dash, which is good. I've driven the car briefly around the yard, so I've got all the wheels turning. I've only got up to like 10, 15 miles an hour, but you know what it's like. Got the wheels turning. The light hasn't come back on yet, so for now I'm kind of shelving that issue. The next issue, I was looking at earth points because of the various lights on the car. I actually now don't think that's a problem, because what I've got left on the dash, I've got coolant level low. Now, the coolant level isn't low at all, so I'm suspecting the sensor in the reservoir. The plug itself seems to be clean and clear from grot. The connection seems to be good, so the sensor itself is probably at fault. I think that might tie into what I'm about to say. So the engine light that I've had on this car and the slightly lumpy idle, I've scanned it, and the actual code is from memory, P1647, which is a bank 2 oxygen sensor. Now, having done a little bit of research, I understand that the oxygen sensors on these cars can be a bit of a problem area, and in some cases they can be a bit of a nightmare to get to. This actually looks like it's had oxygen sensors in the not too dim and distant past. So whether, I think there's 4 on this engine, whether all 4 have been changed, I'm not sure. I need to get eyes on all 4. At the moment, the 2 I can see easily look pretty clear, but the code I've got relates to one on the passenger side, I believe, and it's upstream sensor. And to me, it looks pretty good. But here's where that might tie into this coolant issue. To get to it, it's kind of below the coolant reservoir. And I'm wondering if when that was changed, someone's knocked or damaged something on the reservoir or the plug for the reservoir, so the level sensor itself might not be functioning quite correctly. So I think that warrants taking out and having a look at. And while we're there, have a look at the oxygen sensor, make sure it's plugged in right, make sure the wire hasn't been caught and crimped and damaged or anything like that. That's all I'm going on at the moment. Now, the other issue I mentioned before was the solenoid on the boot lid. Now, there's a button on the dash you should press, and it should open a boot lid or at least release it, and also the Jaguar emblem on the boot, you press that and that should pop it. And again, neither one is working, so the solenoid isn't getting power somehow. I don't think that's related to a bad earth or any of this stuff I've just mentioned. It's just an issue I've discovered that we need to sort out. So what have I actually managed to solve? In theory, that ASC warning light and traction control warning light, they seem to have gone away from what I've just done, so that's a small win. We're not close to being able to drive this thing right now, so I need to carry on digging into this thing and find out exactly why the engine light is a problem. And then I'll update you when I know a little bit more, but that's where we are right now. Okay, it is now the next day, but I am making progress. So the engine light is now sorted, and I'll explain to you what was happening. So I had a code of P1647, I think it was, which was bank 2 upstream O2 sensor, which is just down here somewhere. Now, although the O2 sensor looked relatively new, having looked at the other side of the engine and the O2 sensors there, they all look relatively new, but what I did notice is there's a difference between the two. And after a bit of research, I've learnt that these engines only really like Denso O2 sensors. And what had happened was, whereas bank 1 has got a Denso sensor, someone has changed bank 2 for a spurious one, and whereas it was relatively new and fresh, the readings I was getting from this doing tests with my multimeter were different. So although there was no fault with this in its own right, working alongside a proper Denso sensor, it upset the car, and that's what was throwing the engine light. So I went and sourced the only Denso suitable O2 sensor I could in my local town, and that was literally the only one, and it was quite a lot of money. I think it was something like 125 plus the VAT, but that doesn't matter when the engine light is now off and the engine is running silky, silky smooth. So to demonstrate that, I'll take you back round to the inside of the Jag. I'll fire it up and hopefully be able to demonstrate that there are no engine lights. There we go. Absolutely no warning lights there. And as always, silky, silky smooth on that V8. So we can check that one off the list. So now that engine light has successfully been turned off and everything's running as smooth as it possibly can, I can take this thing out for a test drive. For now, I cannot wait to get out and drive this thing, give it a proper test and find out what the gearbox is like, if it's any good, basically. So let's wrap up here, go for a drive and see what it's all about. So there we have it, that's good news. The engine light appears to be sorted. At the moment, I don't have that traction control light coming back on, no gearbox warnings, and more importantly, that coolant level warning hasn't come back up. Now, I should touch on that briefly. I didn't really do anything to sort that. In order to get to those oxygen sensors, the coolant reservoir tank had to come out, and clearly there's some kind of float or something inside there, and having taken that apart and just sort of moved the tank around to hear it actuating, to make sure everything was working, and put the sensor back in, that seems to have cleared the fault. So whether we had a bit of a sticky, a float or whatever the system is inside the reservoir, telling the car that it had a low coolant level, I'm not sure what the issue was, but at the moment at least it seems to have sorted it. If it comes back, I'll have to look at changing the actual plug-in sensor, but right now it's fine. So I'm going to let sleeping dogs lie on that issue and just try and enjoy this drive. And that's kind of where the next part is going to come in. Whereas I am wafting along in absolute comfort in my V8 long wheelbase Jaguar, it's not 100% right, I feel. I'm doing 45 miles an hour at the moment and it's fine, it's lovely, but when I was going a bit slower and the car was changing through the gears in this automatic box, I felt it wasn't as silky smooth, and you shouldn't be able to feel the transitions, I feel, and you can in this one. So I'm slowing down now to turn. It should drop down through the gears. There, I don't know if that came up on the camera there, but it's a little bit of a jolt. So, gearbox issues, do we have a bigger problem? I think initially the thing to do would be to give this thing a service, so a fluid flush, new filters, new fluid in the gearbox. But I do have masses of history with this car, so I need to go through that and see what has happened to the gearbox in the past. I'm pretty sure when I bought this, the history report said it had a replacement gearbox at some point in its life. Now, if that was like 10 or 15 years ago, then I still need to service it. If it was a year ago, then we've got much bigger issues because the box that's in it is clearly not good either. But that is something I'm going to need to look at in the next episode. For now though, let's continue to enjoy this drive and try and appraise the car aside from the gearbox. As I said just then, I've got no lights on, and for me, this is a realization of a situation I've wanted for a long, long time. I've wanted an X308 XJ for a very, very long time, and to now finally have one, especially as it's a long wheelbase one, to now have one and be driving it, yeah, it's on an awful, awful winter's day, but what a feeling. This is everything I'd hoped an XJ would be. I absolutely love this car. It rides so nicely. Like when I've been doing bits and pieces on it, I'm aware of how soft that suspension is, because if you sort of lean on the wing of the car or anything like that, it kind of wallows and ripples. So it's just such a soft, smooth, beautiful vehicle, and I'm absolutely loving it. So I had a lot of feedback from you guys in the last video, and so thank you for that. I'd mentioned I was thinking about doing something with the exhaust on this to try and open it up and making it sound a little bit special. That has sort of been a little bit controversial. Some people seem to like that idea because, of course, it's a V8 Jag, and V8 Jags should sound cool. On the other hand, a lot of people say, you know, it's sacrilege, it's a long wheelbase VIP luxury type car. Why would you want it to sound raucous? I don't think I really want it to sound raucous. I'd like it to growl a little bit, but I do get what people are saying. It's the sort of car that you get in and you want to sort of waft along in silence and comfort. So having a raspy exhaust, maybe that isn't the thing to do. So either way, for now, I think I'm going to put that on the back burner while we try and figure out this gearbox issue, if there is an issue. I still got to do the paintwork on this to make it perfect, but I think this car is going to come back and be unbelievable. I think this is going to be a really, really special car. And every day I think about this thing, I'm just amazed by the lack of value in them, because I hadn't really done my research. I bought it because I wanted it, but looking at the values of them, even fully sorted, I think my figure in the last video I said was something like 3.5 or 4K on a really good day. And I think I kind of hit the nail on the head there. If this car was perfect, 4K would probably be the absolute screaming limit for it. So yeah, really not a valuable car. But what's weird is, a car like this, it makes you feel like a millionaire anyway. You drive it and you think, this is really something special. The build quality is just something else. Like, everything's put together so well. And you feel like an absolute captain of industry when you're driving this car. It's just, I'm a real fan. I think I'm going to really, really struggle when I sell this one. I'm going to not struggle to sell it, but I'm going to struggle to come to terms with selling it, because I've got a bigger and bigger soft spot for it the more I drive it. So here's a little test, usual test route, coming over some fairly meaty speed bumps in the old Jag. It just wafts them. It's so comfortable, this thing. In a way though, being a long wheelbase is all about the rear passengers. I would love to be driven in this thing and see what it's like back there, but I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. So, small outstanding issues that I need to sort. I mentioned a few times in this video, the boot solenoid, the release. So that's not working either from the button itself on the boot or from the little button I've got on the dash here. It's not in valet mode. I checked that and I did get stuck in that mode. Is it valet or valet mode? Anyway, I've got it stuck in that mode, figured out how to get out of that mode, but it didn't change anything to do with that boot release. So I'm gonna have to look at the actual mechanism there to see if it's in good shape. I don't think it's gonna be too much of an issue, but it is one I'm gonna do down the line. And also the bonnet leaper. That again has been a little bit controversial. People have said in the comments, this shape of Jag shouldn't have the bonnet leaper. I kind of like it. When I bought the car, I thought it looked cool. I've always liked the bonnet leapers on these things. So I feel like I want to reinstate that. I think what I'll actually do, I've got the leaper. As I said, the auction house have been really, really good. They sent me a new one after the original was stolen. So I think what I'm going to do is fit that, because the car had one when I bought it and I wanted to have one again. When I sell the car, if someone else wants to change that back to just a flat Jaguar badge, they can do that. They'll have the option. But for me, I like the look of the leaper, so I'm going to refit it. Controversial as it is, I don't know where I am legally there, but the new leaper, you'll see when I fit it, it's sprung loaded and it pivots. So I would imagine if you hit anyone with the car, hopefully you don't, but if you hit anyone with the car, the leaper emblem itself isn't going to impale anyone. It will just spin round and go the other way. So it's not like a barb on the front of the car. But there we are. I'm not a legal expert, and I certainly don't know what the law is on the bonnet leapers on these cars, but I'm sort of just trying to fill in the gaps here. Okay, so I'm going to put this thing into sport mode and see what happens, because the gearbox may or may not like that, and we will find out shortly what happens. So I've pressed the button, it's lit up. If I put my foot to the floor, blimey, wow, okay. I don't like treating old cars like that, but that revved all the way through to 5k before I backed out of that one. I don't think this car wants to be driven like that. It didn't throw any issues up, fortunately, but whew, yeah, she gathered her skirts, let's say. Right, the next thing I want to check and try and demonstrate is regarding this gearbox. I'm going to pull up to a T-junction here, so I'm going to come to a stop, and then I'm going to pull out as soon as I can anyway, and we'll see if that gearbox is really clunky and jolty. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, bit of a jolt into second, smooth into third, give it a little bit more, smooth into fourth. Okay, so it's not that bad. It's a little bit jolty between first and second. There's just a little bit of a punch in the back when you change. I don't think that's a huge issue. As I said, this car has had a replacement gearbox, I believe, so I'll do a bit of digging there. I'm hoping that a gearbox flush and service will do the trick and make it as smooth as it should be. Anyway, that's as much of a test drive as I'm going to do on a day like today. I'm over the moon with the Jag as it sits, but let's head back to the workshop and we'll have a catch up there. Okay, that is it for today's episode. We've got the engine light sorted, no more lumpy idle. I'm really, really pleased with this. The driving experience, okay, so the gearbox isn't 100%, but I'm pretty confident we can sort that. So in the next episode, we're gonna get this Jag on the ramp, get it up in the air. We're gonna aim to do that gearbox flush and service, as well as having a look at the underside of this Jag. I mentioned it earlier, a lot of you guys like to check the number plates of the cars that I buy, and that's fair enough. You can see the MOT history, totally transparent on this channel. This one has had advisories on corrosion. I think it may have had some corrosion repairs in its life. I haven't been under it yet, so I don't know how good or bad those repairs are. But one thing that is for certain is when we get it up on the ramp, we will find out. And if anything is not exactly as it should be, it will be made as it should be. It will be done properly. It's an old Jag, you know, I'm not going to be shying away from any kind of corrosion or rust it may have had or has. I don't think it's rusty right now. It's got an MOT, but, you know, we'll make it as good as possible. But the main job when it's up in the air is having a look at that gearbox, because I really want that to be as silky smooth as possible. Anyway, enough waffle. If you've enjoyed this video, please let me know. I mentioned it last time, my videos are in a weird sort of state with the algorithm at the moment. So if you've enjoyed this one, please do give it a like. If you've got any comments to do with the car or anything really, just drop them in the comments below. I do try my absolute best to respond to every single one of you. So if you've got any questions or comments, let me know and I'll do my best to get back to you. And, you know, I'm looking forward to bringing you the next episode on this Jag and ultimately making this the best example it can be. So if that is something you want to see, make sure you're subscribed. Anyway, until next time, I will, of course, catch you on the next one. Cheers.